YouTuberverse. It's Max, and I just wanted to do a real quick rundown of what we're up to with this video. Originally, I was going to do a how to play, but Ravensburger actually has a super robust how to play video already on their website, so I'm going to link that down below this. But I also wanted to bring you something thoughtful and interesting about Lorcana. Hopefully I've done that with kind of a level up your game if you're not absolutely brand new to TCGs, but you're getting to the point where you're comfortable with Lorcana and you want to get better. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks for watching. Will Wheaton would famously say at the end of his YouTube series Tabletop, play more games. I stole that line, and at the end of our Magic content I say, cast more spells. So I think you can see where I'm going with this. Play more games. Don't be afraid to lose. Play players that are better than you. And most importantly, when you do lose the game, figure out why. Don't just say, oh, well, my opponent drew better cards than me, or, oh, I needed this one card only, and that was the only way I could possibly win anyway. Don't be reductive. Learn from your games and play a lot of them. Now that you know how to play the cards well, the next most important step, in my opinion, to leveling up your game is being able to evaluate your role in the game. There is an article that is over 2 decades old called Who's the Beatdown, written by Mike Flores, about Magic the Gathering, but this article is so prolific that it kind of has found its way into the hands of every trading card player, because at one point or another you need to evaluate, are you the aggressor or are you the defender? This concept goes all the way back to chess. What are you doing? How are you winning the game? Are you slowly trying to take over the game and control it by challenging characters and keeping the opponent's board clear of pesky characters who can quest? Or are you questing as fast as you can, playing down as many characters as possible, and generating as much lore as you possibly can, as quickly as you can? That character or that player would be the beatdown. The opponent would be more of a controlling player. So you need to understand what your deck is doing, and if you can't do what the deck is designed to do, you need to understand that as quickly as possible and be able to reevaluate based on the current game state. One concept that I think is vital to success in Lorcana that I have had a ton of difficulty being able to do in my years of playing various trading card games is this particular point. Think out your entire turn before you start taking game actions. There's nothing wrong with thinking out the entirety of your turn. Okay, I know I want to do this. This is the big important thing I want to do. Okay, well, are you going to have ink left over? Are you planning on drawing cards? Are you planning on inking cards? Think all of this through. You may know the big play you want to make, but think about all the micro decisions that circulate around that one particular big decision. When I say drawing cards, are you going to do it? I say that because you're going to want to reevaluate your decisions based on the card you draw most of the time. And it's very easy to kind of have that dog chasing after cars mentality of, ooh, this, ooh, that, ooh, this, ooh, that, and thinking about the brand new shiny cards you just drew. But does that actually benefit you overall? So if you want to draw cards, I urge you strongly, do it before you make your big flashy special play. Those are the little decisions you may realize that, oh, I didn't even think about doing this now, or this new card completely changes things, and this play is now even better than the big flashy play I was going to make. Those are the reasons why those little micro decisions matter. Does playing that big card and then inking leave you susceptible to something like a "you have forgotten me"? Those are the important things to think out. If you do that, if you make this play the way you're going to, how does that come back to bite you? What vulnerabilities are you leaving up? What does the following turn after that look like? What's the best case scenario for you? What's the worst case scenario? Take an extra 10 to 15 seconds to kind of think a little bit about these things before you just slam your big play for the turn. While it may be really impressive to play this big awesome card, perhaps you forgot to count how much lore your opponent's about to generate on their turn, and now you've lost the game because you were so laser focused on something and you didn't take time to think about the big picture. So take your time Draw your cards first and think out your turn. Remember, this game is very freeform. There is no main phase 1, combat phase, main phase 2. There is just your turn. After you've drawn your card, you can take your game actions in any way you want to do that. So I urge you strongly, as you level up in Lorcana, I think you'll begin to notice that you're thinking about the scope of the entire turn. So if you're going to Friends on the other side, do that first. Then go ahead and play your big Aladdin. As you play more trading card games, you will hear the phrase RTFC come up quite a bit. What does RTFC mean? Well, it means read the friendly card, and that means actually take time to reread a card. I know we've all seen these 204 cards ad nauseum now from Chapter 1, but it's still worth reading. The little tiny words on the cards matter. Choose is an important word on a card. Banish, send to the inkwell, 2 different things. You may in your head shortcut and go, oh, okay, when Hades comes in, he banishes a character. Doesn't quite do that, does he? Those are the things to think about when I say read the friendly card. It's exactly what I mean. We all make mental shortcuts to make our decision trees quicker so that we can play the game with more ease. I urge you to stop when it's important and read the friendly card. Just chill. Take a second, just chill. And I don't mean a second. I mean, it's okay to take an entire turn and do nothing outside of your required actions. For Lorcana, going ready, set, draw, pass turn, that's a perfectly fine thing to do. Take your time, think it out, but there's nothing wrong with not taking a game action on your turn or just taking a very light turn. That is okay. You are adding cards to your hand. Maybe just drawing a card keeps you out of range if you have Forgotten Me, getting rid of your really good card. Think about the things your opponent could do. Think about the things that could harm you, and then go, you know what? It's okay for me to just add a card to my hand and pass it along. That is perfectly acceptable. I know newer players want to play cards and turn them sideways and do all the cool game action things. You don't have to. That does not mean you're losing if you don't take a game action on your turn. Totally fine to not commit to the board or activate a card. I think we've all experienced trading card game scenarios where we go, oh, right, I can't possibly lose this game, and then 3 turns later we've lost the game and are confused and aggravated. I think that's because we're not asking an important question in those cases of, how do I lose this game? Sometimes we're so far ahead that we just know we're going to win and we don't even bother to think about what beats me from this situation. Think about those things. There are a lot of very heavy punishment cards in Lorcana. There are cards that can take over the game almost single-handedly and wrestle the game back from the jaws of defeat. So consider those important cards when you're thinking of, okay, I'm definitely winning this game. Stop for a minute and go, but how do I not win from here? Is it a Be Prepared? Is it a Whole New World? Is it a line of Rapunzel into Simba? What stops me from winning this game in a very favorable situation is always worth taking a second to evaluate, and that's how good players become great. This one's going to sound really silly, but don't forget about winning the game. What do I mean by that truly? Well, don't forget that despite the fact the opponent might have a really good card in their deck, or you're going into game 2 going, how can I possibly beat the configuration they can get? Think about it. How can you win? Also worth thinking about is, can you just win right now? You're so hyper-focused on the really good card, but can you just win instead? Can I just play this and win? Don't forget about that. And it sounds silly, but it's very common for even very seasoned trading card game players to forget. They can simply go, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and quest, instead of having to worry about challenging your big threat. I can just quest. I can just leave these creatures readied, play another, and then the following turn all my characters can go ahead and quest. Pretty straightforward, right? Didn't think about that initially, just thought about having to deal with the card my opponent has out. Don't forget at various points about actually winning the game. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of insight as to kind of leveling up your game and getting you a little bit better. If you want to hear expansion on these topics, I'd love to talk about some of this stuff more. I've been living it for the past 20 plus years playing trading card games. So if there's some more topics you want to hear built out and bulked out into their own, any of these topics could seriously be a video of this length or longer on its own. So I'd love to do some masterclass talks and give you the tools you need to continue to get better at Lorcana. So until next time, I don't have a really cool thing to say for Lorcana yet. Bye.